18 signs a woman hasn't had sex for a long time. Have you ever wondered if that woman you've been eyeing has been going through a bit of a dry spell in the bedroom? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the telltale signs that she's been running on empty in the romance department. From the way she talks to the way she moves, we'll explore the common behaviors of a woman who hasn't had sex in a long time. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spot these signs from a mile away, so let's get started. 1. Frequent topics of sex in conversation. Picture this, you're chatting with a lady friend, and suddenly the conversation takes a steamy turn. She starts bringing up sexual topics more often than a horny teenager at a sleepover. Now, before you think she's just a naughty girl, consider this, she might just be a little sex-starved. When a woman hasn't had her itch scratched in a while, sex tends to be on her mind more than usual. It's like her brain is a broken record stuck on the "bow chicka wow wow" track. She might start slipping in sexual references, asking about your dating life, or even sharing her own spicy stories. But here's the thing, fellas, while her frequent mentions of sex might seem like an invitation to jump her bones, it's important to read the room. She could just be looking for a little vicarious thrill or some validation that she's still got it. So before you make any bold moves, make sure you're picking up on the right signals. And if all else fails, remember that communication is key. If you're not sure what she's after, don't be afraid to ask. Trust me, a little clarity can go a long way in avoiding any awkward misunderstandings. 2. More open about desires. Alright, guys, let's talk about the elephant in the room, sexual desires. We all have them, but some of us are a little more tight-lipped about them than others. But when a woman hasn't had her desires fulfilled in a while, all bets are off. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been unusually open about her sexual fantasies or deepest, darkest desires, it might be a sign that she's been running on empty in the bedroom. It's like the dam has burst, and all her pent-up sexual energy is flooding out in a torrent of too much information. So how do you navigate this tricky terrain? Easy, listen, be respectful, and don't make assumptions. If she's opening up to you about her desires, it means she trusts you. Honor that trust by being a good friend and a respectful confidant. And who knows? If the stars align and the chemistry is right, maybe you'll get to be the lucky guy who helps her turn those fantasies into reality. 3. Heightened physical touch. Listen up, fellas, because we're about to explore the power of touch. We all know that physical contact can be a powerful thing, but when a woman hasn't had her fill of intimate touch in a while, it's like she's a touch-starved puppy, eager for any scrap of affection. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been ramping up the frequency and intensity of her physical contact with you, it might be a sign that she's been going through a bit of a dry spell. She might find excuses to brush up against you, linger in her hugs, or even get a little handsy when you're together. Now, before you start thinking this is your green light to get grabby, remember that consent is key. Just because she's craving physical contact doesn't mean she wants you to paw her like a horny teenager. It's important to read her body language and make sure any touch is welcome and reciprocated. So how do you navigate this touchy-feely terrain? Simple, be respectful, be attentive, and let her take the lead. If she's initiating physical contact, it means she's comfortable with you. Honor that comfort by being a gentleman and letting her set the pace. And if things do start heating up, make sure you're both on the same page before taking things to the next level. Remember, guys, communication is the key to any successful physical encounter. 4. Increased flirtation. Alright, it's time to talk about the art of flirtation. We all know that a little playful banter can be a fun way to build chemistry and test the waters with someone you're interested in. But when a woman hasn't had her flirting fix in a while, it's like she's a heat-seeking missile, locked onto any target that moves. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been laying on the charm extra thick lately, it might be a sign that she's been running low on romantic attention. She might start flirting with you more openly, paying you more compliments, or even getting a little bolder with her innuendos and suggestive jokes. But here's the thing, fellas, just because she's flirting with you doesn't necessarily mean she wants to jump into bed with you. Flirting can be a fun way to boost her confidence, get a little ego boost, or just enjoy some playful banter without any strings attached. So how do you handle this flirty frenzy? Easy, flirt back, but keep it light and respectful. If she's enjoying the banter, feel free to play along and have some fun with it. But make sure you're not crossing any lines or making her uncomfortable. And if things do start getting a little too spicy for your taste, don't be afraid to pump the brakes and steer the conversation back to safer territory. Remember, guys, flirting is a two-way street, and it's important to make sure everyone's enjoying the ride. 5. Nervousness around intimacy topics. Listen up, because we're about to dive into the world of awkward intimacy. We all know that talking about sex and relationships can be a little uncomfortable sometimes. But when a woman hasn't had her intimate needs met in a while, it's like she's a blushing schoolgirl, giggling and stumbling over her words at the mere mention of the deed. If you've noticed that your lady friend gets a little flustered or tongue-tied when the topic of sex comes up, it might be a sign that she's been going through a bit of a dry spell. She might laugh awkwardly, change the subject abruptly, or even get a little defensive if you push the issue. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to play therapist and help her work through her intimacy issues, pump the brakes, my friend. Her nervousness around these topics is not an invitation for you to pry or push her boundaries. It's important to respect her comfort level and let her open up at her own pace. So how do you handle this delicate situation? Simple: be patient, be understanding, and don't make a big deal out of it. If she seems uncomfortable talking about intimacy, don't force the issue. Instead, focus on building trust and creating a safe, non-judgmental space where she feels comfortable opening up. And if she does start to share more, listen with an open mind and an open heart. Remember, guys, intimacy is a journey, not a destination. 6. Overly invested in romantic media. Alright, guys, it's time to talk about the power of a good love story. We all know that a little romance can be a fun escape from the everyday grind, but when a woman hasn't had her own romantic storyline in a while, it's like she's a romance novel addict, devouring every steamy page and swooning over every cheesy cliché. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been unusually invested in romantic movies, books, or TV shows lately, it might be a sign that she's been running low on real-life romance. She might start gushing about her favorite fictional couples, analyzing every little detail of their love stories, or even comparing her own love life, or lack thereof, to the idealized romances on screen. So how do you handle this romantic media obsession? Easy: join in on the fun, but don't read too much into it. If she wants to gush about her favorite fictional couples, indulge her. Watch the movies, read the books, and enjoy the romance together. But make sure you're not confusing fiction with reality. 7. Making jokes about her sex life. Listen up, fellas, because we're about to explore the world of self-deprecating humor. We all know that a little laughter can be a great way to cope with life's challenges, but when a woman hasn't had her sexual needs met in a while, it's like she's a stand-up comedian, cracking jokes about her own lackluster love life. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been making more jokes than usual about her sex life, or lack thereof, it might be a sign that she's been going through a bit of a dry spell. She might make quips about her vibrator being her only loyal companion, joke about cobwebs forming in her nether regions, or even poke fun at her own sexual frustration. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to offer your services as her personal gigolo, slow your roll, Casanova. Just because she's joking about her sex life doesn't mean she's looking for you to be her sexual savior. She might just be using humor as a way to cope with her frustration or to break the ice around a potentially awkward topic. So how do you handle these sexy self-deprecating jokes? Simple: laugh along, but don't overstep. If she's cracking jokes about her dry spell, feel free to chuckle and even offer a witty retort of your own. But make sure you're not crossing any lines or making her feel uncomfortable. Remember, guys, laughter may be the best medicine, but it's not a cure-all for sexual frustration. 8. Seeking validation about attractiveness. Alright, guys, it's time to talk about the power of a compliment. We all know that a little flattery can go a long way in boosting someone's confidence, but when a woman hasn't had her ego stroked in a while, it's like she's a validation vampire, thirsting for any drop of praise she can get. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been fishing for compliments more often than usual, especially about her physical appearance, it might be a sign that she's been running low on sexual validation. She might start asking for your opinion on her outfit, seeking reassurance about her weight, or even blatantly asking if you find her attractive. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to lay on the cheesy pickup lines and shower her with empty flattery, pump the brakes. Just because she's seeking validation doesn't mean she wants you to objectify her or make her feel like her worth is tied to her looks. She might just be looking for a little boost to her self-esteem or some reassurance that she's still got it. So how do you handle this validation-seeking behavior? Easy, be genuine, be respectful, and don't overdo it. If she's looking for a compliment, give her one, but make sure it's sincere and not just a cheap ploy to get in her pants. Focus on her personality, her intelligence, and her unique qualities, not just her physical attributes. And if she starts getting too hung up on her looks, gently remind her that she's so much more than just a pretty face. 9. Visible frustration or irritability. Listen up, because we're about to explore the world of sexual frustration. We all know that going without physical intimacy for too long can put anyone in a bit of a mood, but when a woman hasn't had her needs met in a while, it's like she's a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at the slightest provocation. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been more irritable or easily frustrated lately, especially without a clear cause, it might be a sign that she's been going through a bit of a dry spell. She might snap at you over minor things, get easily agitated or impatient, or even seem generally on edge and tense. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to swoop in and save the day with your magical penis powers, hold your horses, Hercules. Just because she's sexually frustrated doesn't mean she wants you to be her personal stress reliever. She might just be dealing with the physical and emotional side effects of going without intimacy for too long. So how do you handle this visible frustration or irritability? Simple, be patient, be understanding, and don't take it personally. If she seems more on edge than usual, give her some space and don't push her buttons. Offer a listening ear if she needs to vent, but don't try to solve her problems or assume you know what she needs. And if things start getting too heated, gently suggest some stress-relieving activities that don't involve taking her to bed. Remember, guys, sexual frustration is real, but it's not an excuse for bad behavior. 10. Intense reactions to physical contact. Alright, guys, it's time to talk about the power of touch. We all know that physical contact can be a powerful thing, especially when it comes to building intimacy and connection. But when a woman hasn't had her fill of physical affection in a while, it's like she's a touch-starved cat, ready to purr or pounce at the slightest brush of your hand. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been having unusually strong reactions to even the most casual of touches lately, it might be a sign that she's been running low on physical intimacy. She might get goosebumps when you accidentally graze her arm, lean into your hugs like she never wants to let go, or even get a little flustered when you sit too close to her. So how do you handle these intense reactions to physical contact? Easy, be respectful, be attentive, and let her take the lead. If she seems to be enjoying your touch, feel free to reciprocate in a gentle, non-threatening way. But make sure you're not crossing any boundaries or making her uncomfortable. And if things start getting a little too hot and heavy, make sure you have her enthusiastic consent before taking things to the next level. 11. More willing to take risks. Listen up, fellas, because we're about to explore the world of sexual risk-taking. We all know that going without physical intimacy for too long can make anyone a little desperate for some action, but when a woman hasn't had her needs met in a while, it's like she's a thrill seeker, ready to throw caution, and sometimes clothing, to the wind in pursuit of a good time. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been more willing to engage in behaviors that seem out of character for her lately, especially when it comes to sex and dating, it might be a sign that she's been going through a bit of a dry spell. She might start flirting with strangers, suggesting more daring sexual activities, or even pushing her own boundaries in ways that make you raise an eyebrow. So how do you handle this sudden willingness to take risks? Simple, be supportive, but also be a voice of reason. If she's suggesting activities that seem unsafe or unwise, gently express your concerns and offer some safer alternatives. 12. Use of sexual innuendo. Alright, guys, it's time to talk about the art of the double entendre. We all know that a little wordplay can be a fun way to flirt and build sexual tension, but when a woman hasn't had her needs met in a while, it's like she's a master of the subtle, and not so subtle, sexual reference, dropping hints like they're hot. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been incorporating more sexual innuendos into your conversations lately, it might be a sign that she's got sex on the brain. She might make suggestive comments about everyday objects, use words with double meanings, or even crack jokes that are just a little too risque for polite company. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to respond with your own X-rated witticisms, slow your roll, Lothario. Just because she's engaging in a little verbal foreplay doesn't mean she wants you to dive into the deep end of dirty talk. She might just be enjoying the playful back and forth and the subtle sexual tension it creates. So how do you handle this sudden influx of sexual innuendo? Easy, play along, but keep it classy. If she's making suggestive jokes, feel free to respond with your own clever quips, but make sure you're not crossing the line into creepy or crass territory. Keep the banter light, flirty, and above the belt. 13. Excessive complimenting. Listen up, fellas, because we're about to explore the world of flattery. We all know that a little compliment can go a long way in making someone feel appreciated and desired, but when a woman hasn't had her ego stroked in a while, it's like she's a compliment dispenser, doling out praise like it's going out of style. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been laying on the compliments extra thick lately, especially when it comes to your physical appearance or attractiveness, it might be a sign that she's been running low on romantic attention. She might start gushing about your muscles, your smile, or even your fashion sense, all with a little more enthusiasm than usual. So how do you handle this sudden influx of compliments? Simple, accept them graciously, but don't let them go to your head. If she's praising your good looks or charm, thank her sincerely and return the favor with a genuine compliment of your own. But make sure you're not just parroting back her own words or laying it on too thick. Keep your compliments honest, specific, and grounded in reality. 14. Increased social media activity on dating and relationships. Alright, guys, it's time to talk about the wonderful world of social media. We all know that platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram can be great ways to stay connected with friends and loved ones, but when a woman hasn't had her romantic needs met in a while, it's like her feed becomes a non-stop stream of memes, articles, and quotes about love, sex, and relationships. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been posting more about dating and relationships on her social media lately, it might be a sign that she's got romance on the brain. She might start sharing articles about finding the perfect partner, posting quotes about the importance of good sex, or even making not-so-subtle hints about her own relationship status. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to slide into her DMs with your own dating advice or offers to help her out, slow your roll. Just because she's being more vocal about her romantic life online doesn't mean she wants you to be her personal love guru. She might just be using social media as an outlet to express her thoughts and feelings about dating and relationships. So how do you handle this sudden influx of love-related content on your feed? Easy, engage with it thoughtfully, but don't overanalyze. If she's posting something you find interesting or relatable, feel free to like, comment, or share, but make sure you're not reading too much into her posts or using them as an excuse to pry into her personal life. Keep your interactions friendly, supportive, and respectful. Remember, guys, social media can be a great tool for connection, but it's not a substitute for real-life intimacy. 15. More aggressive in pursuing dates. Listen up, because we're about to explore the world of romantic pursuit. We all know that making the first move can be a daunting task, especially in today's complex dating landscape. But when a woman hasn't had her romantic needs met in a while, it's like she's a heat-seeking missile, zeroing in on any potential prospect with laser-like focus. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been more forward or aggressive in pursuing dates lately, it might be a sign that she's tired of waiting around for love to come knocking. She might start making the first move more often, asking guys out directly, or even being a little more pushy when it comes to making plans. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to sit back and let her do all the work, pump the brakes, lazy bones. Just because she's being more proactive in her love life doesn't mean she wants you to be a passive participant. She might just be taking charge of her own happiness and refusing to let opportunities pass her by. 16. Physical self-improvement efforts. Alright, it's time to talk about the power of self-improvement. We all know that taking care of ourselves, both physically and mentally, is important for our overall well-being. But when a woman hasn't had her romantic needs met in a while, it's like she's on a one-woman mission to become the best version of herself, one gym session and kale smoothie at a time. If you've noticed that your lady friend has been making more effort than usual to improve her physical appearance lately, it might be a sign that she's trying to boost her own confidence and desirability. She might start hitting the gym more often, revamping her wardrobe, or even experimenting with new beauty routines. Just because she's focusing on her own self-improvement doesn't mean she wants you to critique her every move. She might just be doing this for herself as a way to feel more confident and attractive in her own skin. So how do you handle this sudden surge of self-improvement energy? Easy, be her biggest cheerleader, but also respect her autonomy. If she's proud of her progress or wants to show off her new look, shower her with genuine compliments and encouragement. But make sure you're not overstepping your bounds or making her feel like her worth is tied to her appearance. Remind her that you appreciate her for who she is, not just how she looks. 17. Spending more time discussing past relationships. Listen up, because we're about to explore the world of relationship retrospectives. Our past experiences can have a big impact on our present and future, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. But when a woman hasn't had her romantic needs met in a while, it's like she's a relationship historian, rehashing every detail of her past loves and losses. If you've noticed that she's been spending more time than usual discussing her past relationships lately, it might be a sign that she's trying to make sense of her romantic history and figure out what she wants, and doesn't want, in a partner. She might start reminiscing about old flames, analyzing what went wrong in previous relationships, or even comparing her exes to her current prospects. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to become her personal relationship therapist or to start dishing about your own romantic past, pump the brakes, Dr. Phil. Just because she's opening up about her history doesn't mean she wants you to solve all her problems or to engage in a game of who had it worse. So how do you handle this sudden influx of relationship retrospectives? Simple, listen actively, but don't judge or compare. If she's sharing her past experiences, give her your full attention and validate her feelings. But make sure you're not using her stories as fodder for gossip or as a way to one-up her with your own relationship woes. Keep the focus on her and her emotional needs, and offer support and understanding without trying to fix everything. And if things start feeling a little too heavy or negative, gently steer the conversation toward the present and the future, reminding her that the past doesn't define her and that she has so much to look forward to. 18. Seeking physical comfort. Alright, it's time to talk about the power of physical touch. We all know that human contact can be a powerful thing, providing comfort, connection, and a sense of belonging. But when a woman hasn't had her physical needs met in a while, it's like she's a touch-starved koala, seeking out any opportunity for a cuddle or a hug. If you've noticed that she has been more inclined to seek out physical comfort lately, without any overtly sexual overtones, it might be a sign that she's craving the simple reassurance of human touch. She might start hugging you more often, leaning on you during movies, or even just finding excuses to be in close physical proximity. Now, before you start thinking this is your cue to become her personal body pillow or to take things to a more intimate level, hold up, snugglebug. Just because she's seeking out physical comfort doesn't mean she wants to jump into bed with you. She might just be in need of some platonic affection and reassurance. So how do you handle this sudden need for physical closeness? Easy, be open to providing comfort, but always respect her boundaries. If she's initiating hugs or cuddles, reciprocate in a way that feels natural and comfortable for both of you. And there you have it, the many signs and behaviors that may indicate a woman in your life is going through a sexual dry spell. So what's next for you? Discover the signs she finds you attractive, or learn what 99% of men don't realize women look at. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more.